The MCU's Phase 5 has absolutely sucked ass. At least Phase 4 had Spider-Man No Way Home to prop it up. This one had No Way Home Light with the nostalgia-fueled Deadpool and Wolverine, but eating McDonald's and calling it gourmet doesn't make it gourmet. It's still a goddamn Big Mac. At least it's better than Rachel Zegler's Snow White.
I ain't got a good brain.
I think you've got a fine brain, Jack.
You make me happy.
The MCU slowed down since the release of Part 1 of this series, with only one movie to come out in 2024, but it picked right back up this year with 2 movies out already in 2025, Captain America Brave New World and Thunderbolts, aka the New Avengers. To put it nicely, out of the 3, one of these things is not like the others. So here we are. This is a sort of compilation video. I've included the remaining MCU Phase 5 movies that weren't in Part 1, but I've also reviewed Thunderbolts for this video since I hadn't released that yet. So it's 1/3 new. Since Thunderbolts is the unreleased review, fuck doing this in order, let's just start with that, shall we? Thunderbolts! The New Avengers. Thunderbolts is a complete and utter mess, has a plethora of problems, and completely character assassinates a number of players in the movie, but just like this guy trying to get a date, I can't say I'm not entertained with the end result.
Slide in my DMs like this.
For one thing, the movie doesn't actively hate me, like almost every movie post-Endgame, so that already gives it a leg up over the recent Marvel fare. Besides objective plot issues that contradict preceding Marvel projects, the movie also boasts fantastic performances that you'd be hard-pressed not to enjoy. And by God, it at least has an underlying, or overt, rather, thematic element that's consistent throughout the entire movie. You've probably heard already that the film tackles mental health, and while it does so with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, it at least attempts to say and be something. And shit, that's a huge win in 2025. That's the thing with Marvel in modern times. You have to grade it on a curve, cause shit just isn't good anymore. The extremes are either tickling the nostalgia button for an easy win like Deadpool and Wolverine, or flat out dog shit like Captain America 4. Well, Thunderbolts lies somewhere in between, but at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel. It's a box office bomb, however, which speaks to the apathy people have toward the MCU as a whole at this point. It's open to one of the lowest totals that any MCU movie ever has, and while it's been generally well received by audiences, it simply won't make enough to turn a profit. This is mostly due to the usual inflated Disney-sized budget, so they have no one to blame but themselves, but did we expect any less? Regardless, the best way to break this thing down is to start with the story, so let's dive right into it. The movie starts with Yelena talking about how depressed she is, or maybe she's just bored. She narrates this while bad bitch girl bossing her way through a violent mission to get an inconsequential to the plot thingamajig, beating the shit out of men 3 times her size with ease. At this point, we've seen this kind of shit so many times, you just kind of become numb to the disbelief and wait for the next scene. If you remember, she's working for Allegra de Fontaine, the woman who was last seen recruiting bad people for an undercover ops group. Hint, Yelena seems to be one of those operatives. De Fontaine's apparently being investigated by the DOJ or some shit for involvement in a super secret, super not good project named Sentry. So Yelena's here in Malaysia trying to sever any ties she might have to said project. She blows up the lab after having a therapy session with the workers there about how sad she is. De Fontaine realizes she'll be impeached if her involvement in the project is discovered, so Yelena saying she's all done working for her throws a wrench in the gears. And so the boss agrees to let her go after one final mission, sending Yelena off to a covert facility some fucking where to eliminate some random target. And she's happy to do it, thinking she'll be released, riding off like an exuberant Terminator.
When judgment comes for you, when judgment comes for you, what you gonna do?
But once she reaches the facility, she's attacked by Johnny Walker, aka the dude who is actually the rightful guy to take over as Captain America, but we'll touch on that later. Ghost, who you probably don't remember but was the villain in Ant-Man 2, and Taskmaster, who you probably also don't remember but was the villain in the Black Widow movie, have all been sent there under false pretenses. They've been sent to kill each other. Yes, indeed, they've been tricked by De Fontaine, god damn it, and wind up in a Mexican standoff. Well, most of them do. Taskmaster dies almost immediately because the plot couldn't be bothered with her. And you'd think Yelena would be super upset about this since Taskmaster is one of her Black Widowed sisters from the Red Room and all that. But nah, they just raid her corpse for weaponry and a turkey sandwich. They also accidentally wake up some dude named Bob, who's been suspended in cryosleep or some comic book style bullshit, and they all have to reluctantly team up to escape because they finally realize what the audience did 10 minutes ago. DeFontaine set them all up to die because they're all expendable assets and she doesn't want to go to prison, so she's going to get rid of all the evidence, meaning them too. The room is set to blow up, and thankfully DeFontaine put a little clock in there for plot purposes so the not heroes can conveniently know how much time they have to escape. Well, guess what? They do. While doing this, Yelena connects with Bob over their mutual depressive nature, and they seem to take a liking to one another. Yelena, Walker, Ghost, and Bob finally make it back outside after some extreme but reluctant cooperation. But DeFontaine discovered they survived, so she sent a small army to stop them. She's also been informed about Bob, who's actually part of the Sentry super soldier experiment that was supposed to be dead, so she wants him taken alive. Well, good old Bob sacrifices himself so Yelena and the gang can escape, taking bullet after bullet. DeFontaine is pissed that the soldiers shot him, but all the commanding officer heard was fire at will. Well, guess what? Bob has some tricks up his sleeve, because the Sentry experiments worked, and he's actually superhuman as fuck. He can fly, he's invulnerable, and basically just Superman who will eventually wear yellow spandex. DeFontaine takes him in and brings him to the old Avengers Tower, where she plans on using him to face the press as a distraction from all her dirty deeds. She stupidly talks about her plans while in the backseat of a limo driven by Yelena's adoptive dad, the Red Guardian. The craziest coincidence, or the plot needed it to happen, and he races off to rescue them because he somehow knows exactly where they are. And yep, he does just that, pulling up and rescuing Yelena and the gang because, well, you know, the plot needed him to. Meanwhile, Congressman Bucky Barnes has been following the DeFontaine situation, getting calls from her thirsty secretary who's been leaking information to him. So he heads out, hot on Yelena's trail too, and rescues her, Red Guardian, and the others from an attack by a group of soldiers, before taking them all into super soldier custody via his one badass scene. He wants them all to testify against DeFontaine, but they explain the Bob situation to him in an aha moment, and he decides to help the gang infiltrate the old Avengers Tower and stop Fontaine and bibbidi bobbidi boop. Unfortunately for them, DeFontaine has helped him realize control over his powers, and he's now calling himself the Sentry, along with some new bleached blonde surfer dude hair. He dispatches the group in a matter of seconds, but when DeFontaine tells him to kill them all, he refuses since they're clearly not a threat to him. This sends DeFontaine into a bitchy tailspin, and Sentry goes full Nicolas Cage on her. However, Fontaine's assistant hits a kill switch that incapacitates him long enough for them to escape, but this inadvertently triggers old Bob's alter ego known as the Void, and he starts to engulf the city of New York in darkness. It's basically this giant black hole of sadness that sends everyone it touches into their deepest, darkest secret hole of depression. Yelena sacrifices herself to enter this void of darkness to try and stop Bob from within. And they're a team now, so Red Guardian, Walker, Ghost, and Bucky jump in after her. Using the power of words, Yelena convinces Bob to leave the darkness behind. And after beating the shit out of himself like he's Jim Carrey in Liar Liar,
What the hell are you doing?
Kicking my ass! Do you mind?
he takes control and they escape. After regaining control of himself, the city returns to normal, and lo and behold, DeFontaine is right there to snag the gang and get away with it all by presenting them to the news media who just so happen to be right there. Yes, indeed, she ducks responsibility by introducing the team as the New Avengers. Oh, and then there's a post-credit scene where the New Avengers see the Fantastic Four's ship flying toward Earth from space or something, and that's it. That's the fucking movie. Okay, let's start with all the bad about this movie, because let's be fair, there's plenty that's wrong. The most glaring thing about Thunderbolts, or the New Avengers as we should be calling it, is character assassination. If you've actually been following the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's like you're actively punished for doing so, because you'll notice glaring things like, well, characters acting completely differently in this movie than they did in previous Marvel projects. The biggest example in New Avengers is John Walker. When he debuted in the Falcon and Winter Soldier Disney Plus show, he was actually a pretty righteous dude who righteously killed a fucking terrorist who murdered his best friend. So in this movie, they've made him a total dick. That's right, in this movie, John Walker is just a straight up asshole pretty much the entire time, picking on Bob and generally being a pain in the ass to everyone in the movie. He's also seen as mostly incompetent, constantly wrong at every turn and one-upped by the other characters. He's who the movie needs him to be, not who he was before. Not to mention his character arc is odd. You'd think during his trip into the void, when everyone was seeing the things that haunt them the most, he'd be revisiting his dead friend or reliving the moment where he killed the terrorist, but instead it's when he gets in an argument with his wife. I mean, fair enough, I guess, but that's not exactly the most intense thing he's gone through, and the audience actually knows that. Red Guardian is also another character that's essentially been repurposed for the sake of the script's needs. Instead of meeting the characters where they were at, back where they left off, they've been rejigged to cater to the plot, for better or worse. Red Guardian has been reduced down to a one-note joke, basically playing the loud foreign guy who screams all of his lines. But at minimum, he at least has a character arc here, even though it took him running away from his family again and resetting the character in order for him to have one. And Taskmaster is, well, Taskmaster is a complete joke. She's all over the advertisements for this film, yet she's in the actual movie for all of 60 seconds before being killed and her corpse is rated as a gag. And like I mentioned earlier, Yelena has absolutely zero things to say about it, even though their characters have the biggest connection outside of her and Red Guardian. So why even bother having her in this thing? Speaking of things that make you say, why even bother having them? Ghost is another character that's effectively useless and adds practically nothing to the story. It's almost like Ghost is a throwback to pre-modern audience movies, when they needed a token minority character instead of a token white character like most movies do now. Post-film release, rumors have swirled that she had a lot more to do in the original script, but they decided to cut it. For reasons I'll never know, because having a cardboard cutout for a character to just tag along with everyone else stands out like a sore thumb. In addition to being useless, her phasing abilities work until the script needs them not to, something that's also an aggravating contrivance the movie goes through repeatedly. Now, stop me if I'm repeating myself, there's another wasted character. This one is beloved though. Congressman Bucky Barnes. We'll ignore the fact that him becoming a congressman is the 8,000th argument why this dude should have been Captain America instead of Sam Wilson. If he's good enough to join the government in an official capacity, he's good enough to wield the shield. The Winter Soldier redemption arc was sitting right there and they completely ignored it for this mess. But yeah, I digress. Sebastian Stan once again rests squarely on the back burner in this movie, like he's done nearly every time he's been on screen since signing that 9-picture deal. What the fuck are they even doing with this guy? Sure, he's technically an Avenger now, but he has little to nothing to do in this movie and certainly doesn't have anything resembling a character arc. He has a pretty cool scene that reintroduces him as his badass Winter Soldier self when he rescues the group from a military attack, but other than that, he's simply along for the ride. And when he gets the opportunity to have any reflection at all once he enters the Void, a place where you'd think Bucky has ample space to explore his psyche, they skip over him completely and just use his past for a Marvel-style unfunny zinger. I repeat, what the fuck are they even doing with this guy? As you can see, there are a lot of characters in the movie, but only so many full-blown arcs to go around. Most of them are along for the ride. They're as placeholders because they're meant to be a team, but the movie is only interested in a few of them. The script hopes that you just remember who they were from previous movies, but then if you actually do, like I was saying earlier, you're actively punished for closely following the MCU, because these characters aren't like their previous versions. Bucky Barnes, writing-wise, is a stand-in for himself. Same for Ghost, Taskmaster is a 60-second gag, and US Agent is a completely different character wearing the skin suit of John Walker. Besides the lack of depth for most characters, the movie also has that obnoxious kind of ending the MCU keeps writing, defeating the bad guy through the power of words. They did it just a couple months ago in Captain America Brave New World, when Captain Wakanda beat Red Hulk by talking to him. And what happens here? Well, they beat Sentry/Void by talking to him, of course. It works a lot better here than it did in Brave New World, but it's still a boring trope that I saw coming from a million miles away. The characters are only as clever as the writers, so as soon as I saw how powerful they made the Void, I didn't think there was any other intelligent way they'd be defeating him other than just giving him a therapy session at the end of the movie. Sure as shit, that's exactly what happened. With all that said, I was still entertained by the movie because there are a few things that work, and they work really well. A movie can have objectively bad parts, but you still walk away somewhat satisfied. And for Thunderbolts/New Avengers, that has to do with the performances. The cast is absolutely fantastic, and they do the best they can with what they have to work with. Even though the characters might be different from where they were left off or are thinly written, the actors make the best of things and really light up the screen. I enjoyed a lot of the banter between the characters, even through that now obnoxious Marvel humor. And it's this kind of work that makes me not hate this new Avengers squad. I actually like them and want to see more of them, just in a better written movie. Out of the entire cast, Yelena and Bob are easily the best of the bunch, which is high praise since everyone does such a wonderful job playing poorly written characters. But they also get the full character arcs of the script, so it helps them stand out. Yelena is played again by Florence Pugh, who's simply fantastic in the role. And yes, she has an obviously put on Russian accent the entire movie, but at least she actually goes for it. Scarlett Johansson, beloved as she is as Black Widow, said fuck all that and just spoke in her normal voice despite also playing a Russian. Yelena is depressed at the beginning of the movie and searching for purpose. She ends up finding it in a few ways. First, in a great scene with Red Guardian in the third act where she pours her emotions out to her father and he's there for her. Secondly, with her interactions with Bob, who she connects with over their joint sense of sorrow. And lastly, she gets what she desired professionally, as much as a professional killer can get anyway, when she gets to be the face of the new Avengers. And Louis Pullman is fucking amazing as Sentry/Void, who jumps back and forth between the timid Bob and all-powerful Sentry. This is, in a lot of ways, Yelena and Bob's movie, so I'm thankful to say the script doesn't let them down. Well, as long as you don't count that cop-out of an ending I talked about. With the reveal of the Thunderbolts being the new Avengers and Disney's marketing gimmick really driving that home, it feels like this is the apology Avengers. It's like Disney screened this movie, realized they had something audiences would actually like, and said, you know what? Fuck Sam Wilson, let's make this squad the Avengers 2.0. Yes, there's an obnoxious mid-credit scene where we find out that Sam Wilson is suing them for copyright infringement. This man has gone from virtuous do-gooder to spearheading the great Avengers copyright drama of 2025. But I don't even know if you can count mid-credit scenes in MCU movies as canon at this point, so I'm just ignoring that, assuming Avengers Doomsday will as well. No matter what, this movie is one flawed piece of filmmaking with a ton of issues that nearly derail it. But wonderful performances by a dedicated cast makes me want to see what they can do in a movie not written like it's trying to revive a dying franchise. Maybe we'll get that in Avengers Doomsday, but considering Marvel quality over the last 5 years, I'm not holding my breath. But I'll repeat, at least this shit is better than Snow White.
Cause I'm an island boy, and I've been trying to make. Oh, I'm an island boy. I'm a just island boy. I'm a just island boy.
Captain America 4 has hit theaters, and surprise, surprise, the movie that's had a tumultuous production with piss-poor test screenings and multiple reshoots is trash. A choppy, sloppy, poorly edited, and badly written piece of garbage, this movie isn't worth anyone's time, let alone the time of the talent on screen. It's like being forced to listen to 50 Shades of Grey in public.
I let go and come again. And it's sweet and agonizing and intense.
My editor thought this movie was great, so there's some tension behind the scenes here. But I knocked him out with facts like a makeshift boxing match. Clear.
This is shit. This is a table of shit.
Opening lower than Ant-Man and the Wasp and sporting a hilariously bad B- cinema score with a critic score of 50%, this garbage will come tumbling down next weekend. And before anyone tries to tell me it only cost $180 million to make, no, Disney doesn't count as a verified source when it comes to their production budgets. They lie all the time. Like when Forbes produced court documents revealing Disney lied about their budget for Doctor Strange 2, which they reported $200 million for, yet actually spent a staggering $414 million on. And that production had nothing on Captain America 4. So yes, I'll take movies that cost $500 million to make for all the marbles, Alex. Enough about all that. What about the movie itself? Why is it so bad? Well, it's all bad, but let's start at the foundation, the script. Holy Christ, is this thing a mess. It's like the film was written by a committee, not by a person with a singular vision. And that committee was a group of 10-year-olds. It's supposed to be a spy thriller with mystery and intrigue, but they don't just telegraph exactly what's going to happen a mile away, they blatantly tell you what happens. so the audience is constantly 10 steps ahead of the characters. That can work when done right, but here it's clearly unintentional, and it's because it's 2 to 3 scripts mashed into one. It also takes cues from the recent admission by Netflix that they have their screenwriters write as if people aren't watching, so characters say exactly what they're doing while they're doing it, leaving show don't tell by the wayside. Everything is explicitly stated like we the audience are idiots and not the people writing the movie. On top of his stupid plot, the villain is also an absolute fool. He's supposed to be a super genius, a statistical whiz who understands the probability of every outcome, yet he's constantly outwitted by Sam fucking Wilson in the most blunt, simplistic ways imaginable. It constantly boils down to the bad guy thinking Sam would be statistically more likely to commit one action, but then Sam just doesn't, so the bad guy's defeated. It's that fucking dumb. If this is where we're at with Marvel writing, I can't wait to see what they do with the MCU version of Wolverine.
Okay, but where's the girl? You better start talking or things are gonna get a little, let's say, dangerous.
Speaking of Sam Wilson, who the hell is Sam anyway? The movie is so goddamn insecure, it's constantly reminding you that he's Captain America in this embarrassing way of begging you to take him seriously. But we knew who Steve Rogers was. He was a skinny kid who was bullied, and that crafted him. He was the guy that, despite being small before the super soldier serum, would throw himself on a live grenade to save his platoon, even though he was the little guy. His character was on full display. Who he was right there. But Sam is just the next guy. We never really learn anything about Sam, and we still haven't after an entire TV show dedicated to him. Because let's face it, the Winter Soldier was just a side character despite the show being called Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The main character is really just an avatar. He's not anything in particular other than the person holding the shield. So a poor main villain, a hollow main character, what else could go wrong? Absolutely everything, that's what. The movie tries to be 20 things at once. For some reason, it's a sequel to a 17-year-old Marvel movie that most people didn't like, because this is really a follow-up to 2008's Incredible Hulk. It's also a carbon copy of Winter Soldier almost beat by beat, just done like shit instead. On top of that, it tries tying up loose ends from other Marvel projects that have been left dangling, like the Celestials sticking out of the fucking ocean in the Eternals, and it's a soft introduction to the X-Men into the MCU with a major plot device being adamantium. They should have just called this piece of shit Captain America: Loose Ends. You can tell how insecure this movie is because they advertise Red Hulk as a major part of it, yet he was only in it for all of 5 minutes, proving the rumors true. Same thing with Giancarlo Esposito's Sidewinder, who has a grand total of 5 or 6 minutes of screen time. Cap 4 is nothing short of a fascinating disaster, a studio too proud to just shelve it and take a tax write-off like they should have. There's so much to say about it that it's far, far easier to do so by going through the story beat by beat, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. We start with Indiana Jones giving a speech right after it's been announced he's won the presidency of the United States. President Jones is taking some undisclosed medication, and given that it's been relentlessly spoiled in the previews that he becomes Red Hulk, how much would you like to bet that this is connected to that? They hide it about as well as the Joker shitting himself.
I know why you choose to have your little...
He wishes he could see his daughter Betty, but alas, she's not here. So he gives a fiery speech about togetherness while looking like a fucking lunatic as he screams into the camera with a Michael Shannon level of fury.
For those of you that have your heads under rocks, which apparently is the majority of this chapter, we have been fucking up.
They show a flashback when he was wearing a fake mustache. Well, it's supposed to be real in the movie, but good God, it's the Kevil mustache removal from the JL reshoots, just in reverse. The news is talking about how President Ford captured the man responsible for the creation of the Abomination, so you immediately know it's the leader from the Incredible Hulk movie. What an incredible mystery they're not laying out here. Like I said, this movie is written by 10-year-olds by committee. We then flash to the title of the movie, and it just says Brave New World because they're smart enough not to say Captain America this time around. Don't worry, they'll tell you Sam's the real Captain America 80 f***ing times. We fast forward 5 months later to a shitty looking CGI plane where US military specialists are asking questions to each other about things they already know the answer to because the script can't figure out any other way to get information to the audience. With the superior officer standing behind him watching the screen, the guy asks, "Sir, the bad guy should be handing over the package to the buyer any minute. Do you know what they're carrying?"
"That's classified, Private Face. Now where's Captain Falcon?"
"Oh shit, here he comes now."
Captain Falcon lands and beats up the bad guys in his new suit that was built by the Wakandans. We know this because the script again can't help but straight up tell us through clunky exposition.
"How the hell did he do that, Private Face?"
"Well, sir, you see his suit was a gift from the Wakandans and it's made out of vibranium. It also does X, Y, and Z and now he can drink his own pee."
Gus from Breaking Bad makes his first of 3 appearances in the entire movie because they needed something to sell this piece of shit in the trailers. Seriously Seriously, this dude is in the movie for all of 5 minutes total, but you know, whatever. He's actually pretty intimidating. Not surprising since Giancarlo Esposito is a brilliant actor, and he's also played this character like 20 times in his career, so he has it down pretty well. Falcon America goes after the hostages, while the SEAL team goes after the package. Meow. And we get some poorly choreographed, slow-moving fight scenes that look like shit. The movie continues to just follow the Winter Soldier beat by beat, so like Cap having to fight Batroc on the ship in that movie when he's trying to save some hostages, Captain Falcon fights generic tank soldier while he's trying to save some hostages. Speaks volumes about how much this is just a watered-down, shitty version of that movie on a good day. Captain Falcon and Colombian sidekick Falcon save the hostages and rescue the package. Again, meow. And the audience stays about 5 steps ahead of the writers because Cap thinks something is fishy. Why didn't the buyer show up? And who is the buyer? Gee Willikers couldn't possibly be the leader, the guy they literally told us about at the beginning of the fucking movie, and didn't just tell us about him, actually showed him lurking around in his lab. How can a movie simultaneously play off like the audience is following along with the mystery after the film itself gave us the answers up front? What kind of retarded bullshit is this? Oh yeah, it's a post-Endgame Marvel movie. Silly me. We just bounce around scenes now in jarring fashion, which just speaks to how many times this movie was reshot, and now we're in Baltimore to reintroduce us to Isaiah whoever the fuck. You probably don't know who this guy is because you'd have to check out the Falcon and Winter Soldier show no one watched. Remember when Marvel said we wouldn't have to watch their shitty TV shows to follow the films?
Ah, fuck you!
Anyway, Joaquin calls him the Forgotten Cap because, yeah, fuck it, anyone can be Captain America now. And he's probably better than Steve Rogers too, or something modern audience pandering. And while they're playing footsies, Captain Falcon gets a call. To his surprise, it's an invite to the White House. He wants Old Man Morpheus to come with him, but he refuses like I do when the boys ask to play another round of ranked play after we got squashed 6 times straight.
The fuck you mean? Nah.
The movie fills in the gaps, like, why does this guy exist? Why is he standing here? Why doesn't he want to go to the White House? Because it knows you didn't watch the TV show where he was introduced. So I asked the question, why bother using him? Why not use Steve Rogers' old ass for this role? It would work way better, especially since most people have no clue who this guy is, and you have to use forced dialogue to get the audience through the scene. Old Man Morpheus doesn't want to go to the White House because the government experimented on him after he took the super soldier serum. But Captain Falcon convinces him to because that's what the plot needs to happen, and away they go. Because this movie's chopped to shit, the story immediately jumps to them at the White House, where Morpheus's phone is on the fritz. We know this because he says, my phone is on the fritz. Good shit, guys. Captain Falcon's brought in to talk to President Ford privately, where he's asked to restart the Avengers. Falcon immediately asks what we're all thinking. Didn't the original Avengers stop working for the government? So why would they now? The answer? Who cares? The scriptwriters are satisfied enough that they brought it up, so fuck the answer. President Jones gives an address about that mysterious package they've been hiding. Meow again. Surprise, it's that thing they revealed in the trailers to try and make this movie palatable. Adamantium. It was discovered at Celestial Island. You know, that thing that's been sticking out of the ocean for the past 4 years worth of Marvel movies without anyone so much as mentioning it. So far, we have a movie that's a carbon copy of Winter Soldier, while being a sequel to Incredible Hulk, trying to make a lost plot point from the Eternals matter, and now trying to soft intro the X-Men. Yes, this is going fucking great. Just call it Cap 4. Plot threads galore. President Ford's trying to keep Japan on board with the Accords, keeping some major powers in unison on what to do with the adamantium. If only he could stop being old and racist.
What's up with the guy with the weird eyes? He handicapped or something?
Before he can make things worse, Old Man Morpheus and some other people clearly become mind-controlled and attack the president. Captain Falcon and some 80-pound, 5-foot woman stop it. No, that isn't a joke. And remember that scene when Cap chased Winter Soldier through the building? Well, this movie does that too, as Falcon chases Morpheus through the White House. This time, though, they subvert expectations because Morpheus doesn't get away. Captain Falcon convinces him to give up before it gets worse. Falcon bursts into the security room to confront President Han Solo, and they're interrupted by Solo's, again, 5-foot, 80-pound security advisor with a speech impediment. Of all things in this movie, this is easily the least believable, providing 0% ability to suspend disbelief. But whatever. Falcon tells her to fuck off.
Don't talk to me, you slut.
But Han Solo reminds Falcon that he's not Steve Rogers, so he can't get into the mix with this, even though he just asked him to restart the Avengers. So the guy who has Black Panther and Iron Man's armor, Falcon's wings, Ant-Man's helmet, and Captain America's shield isn't good enough to lead an investigation. But he's totally good enough to restart the greatest super team the world has ever known. At your convenience, you piece of shit movie. Everyone seems to know something fishy's going on, including the audience, since we already know 1, the people who attacked the president were under mind control, and 2, who was controlling them. But, you know, whatever. This is a mystery. What an espionage thriller. Anyway, since the movie thinks everyone watching it is stupid, we have to go through the motions of the characters discovering the exact same thing they already know and then acting surprised about it. Colombian Falcon knows that Morpheus' phone was on the fritz since he announced it. Then him and the 5-foot white girl watch a CCTV recording of the phone on the fritz. They figure out what they already figured out. The phone did it. Imagine being the actors in this scene, knowing how poorly written the script is, but having to go along with it anyway. I'd go home at the end of the day feeling like Philip Seymour Hoffman in Boogie Nights.
Oh, fucking idiot!
Then, when Captain Falcon's driving around, he's attacked by Gus from Breaking Bad's second of 3 appearances. This is borderline embarrassing because we're supposed to believe 90,000-year-old Esposito is any match for the tank that is Captain Falcon. But what the f*** ever, I guess. Falcon shockingly takes out Sidewinder with one fucking kick, so that's at least realistic. Even though about 20 minutes later, you see an 80-pound woman beat the shit out of 6 trained military men, but we'll get to that. Anyway, after the attack on the president, it's given France and India time to second guess if they should be a part of the Adamantium Accords or whatever stupid-ass name the script gives it. In some contrived-ass way, as if not teaming up with the world's greatest superpower is the right move here. They tell President Jones that he needs to get Japan back on board, and he could if only he'd stop being so fucking racist.
Konnichiwa! How are we all feeling? Yeah, boy!
As if this movie couldn't be more simplistic, Captain Falcon and Mini Falcon discover where the call to Morpheus' phone was coming from. A place called Echo 1 Base. Guess where they're going and what they'll figure out. If your answer is the exact same thing I've mentioned 5 times already, you'd be right. The characters are finally going to catch up with what the audience has known since minute 2 of this flick. Next, the forgotten female elf from Snow White is going to talk to the inmates who shot at the president when she sees a guard acting all quirky as he pulls his gun out to shoot them. She absolutely has time to save at least 1 or 2 of them, but waits until the guy kills all 3 of them to draw her weapon. And instead of doing literally anything, she just stands there. This is so poorly edited I had to do a double take. I saw this movie 3 fucking times to write this review, mind you. This is easily the worst editing in the entire movie. But anyway, she calmly waits till the guy just shoots himself in the face. That entire paragraph is a real description of what happens. It's that stupid. And then, yes, there's a lot of and then happening in this film because that's all the writers know how to do. And then President Ford gets a call on Air Force One from the leader, aka the main bad guy in the movie. We're supposed to be shocked, just like President Solo, because the script forgot it already told us who the villain of the movie is 2 minutes in.
It's you. The assassination attempt at the White House. It was you,
says President Ford, blissfully unaware how fucking stupid he sounds to the audience. No, shit, it was him. The leader speaks with the same voice as the villain from Madame Web. First it was Amelia Perez, now this. I guess Madame Web had way more influence than we could have imagined. Of course, it was me. It's a good thing you didn't know today was the day you were going to die. Or something like that. Next, Captain Falcon and Mini Falcon arrive at the secret base, like a shitty copy of the scene from Winter Soldier when Cap and Black Widow enter a secret base. Because this movie has absolutely no identity. And what a surprise, they discover exactly what they already know. The phones were used to mind control Morpheus and the others and force them to attack the president. How did it manage that, you ask? Well, you came to the right place. It's a complex answer, you see, and Captain Falcon explains it. He created technology to mind control them. That is no joke, the answer to the big mystery. How were they mind controlled? Why, through technology, silly pants. That's how intelligent this script is. It's the scene from Thank You for Smoking, but it actually means it.
Cigarettes in space.
It's the final frontier, Nick.
But wouldn't they blow up in an all-oxygen environment?
Probably. But it's an easy fix. 1 line of dialogue. Thank God we invented the, whatever device.
This movie has absolutely no confidence in itself, and with writing this bad, I can understand why. The leader reveals himself to Falcon and Mini Falcon, again, the script thinking it's a big shock to the audience too, which makes it unintentionally hilarious if not sad and pathetic, and reveals his evil plan to them because of course he does. Falcon America has an aha moment and realizes what's going on, because like Britney Spears, he's the last to know. And the leader sends in a bunch of mind control several military guards after them to slow them down instead of just straight up killing them by obliterating the room or any other million different ways he could have just taken care of them. And he says he wants them to die too. He says, "You're a fascinating problem," showcasing just how desperate the script is to make Sam Wilson interesting. Oh, and did you know he's Captain America? The movie reminds you of that again in case you forgot how desperate they are for you to accept him. The 5', 80-pound white chick shows up to save them. I'm not joking. And she kicks the shit out of all the guards because of course she does. For a movie that desperately wants to be Winter Soldier, gone are the quick-cut kinetic action scenes, replaced by tedious, slow-moving garbage that looks ridiculous and just plain boring. Elsewhere, President Ford loses Japan as an ally for the Accords because he's just that old man who can't stop being racist.
Yeah, what is that?
It's a Taiwan Tammy. She on runway and do a drag queen and nails.
Are you kidding me? That is extremely racist.
Isn't that awesome? I'm so excited about this one.
Jokes aside, it's really just this hyper-convoluted idea by the leader to create some sort of war between Japan and the United States in order to make Harrison Ford's daughter madder at him. I'm not fucking kidding. That's the evil villain's plan. See, President Indy misses his daughter Betty. You remember her from 17 years ago.
Because you're a good little consumer and saw Incredible Hulk, right?
Well, anyway, Betty is still mad at him about Bruce Banner, and the leader was locked up and used as a science pet project by Ford and never got the pardon he was promised. So to get back at him, he's going to instigate a war between Japan and the United States. Yes, Japan of all places, because this script was too much of a pussy to pick China, since Disney has too much money wrapped up in their government. So President Indiana Jones decides to get the adamantium himself off of Celestial Island, because that makes all kinds of sense. The president going to the island himself.
Right.
But don't worry, the bad guy is such a genius, a statistical whiz, such a probability machine, that he's constantly outwitted by Sam fucking Wilson of all people, and he's about to be again. Sam asks Gus about the situation for Esposito's third and final scene in the movie, and he explains to Sam exactly what we already learned. The whole thing's a ruse to make Ross look bad. Great writing, right? Who would have guessed that? Am I right? Captain Falcon and his sidekick fly to Celestial Island and intercept President Ford, who he confronts about the situation. Ford admits to everything, which we've already heard at least half a dozen times, but the script is so worried we didn't get it the first time, it goes over it once more. And he also reveals that the pills he takes were given to him by the leader to save his life. Shocker, I know. The leader mind controls a couple pilots who instigate a fight with the Japanese fleet, and Captain Falcon and his bitch fly around amongst shitty CGI backdrops and stop them. Ross, meanwhile, is struggling with the pills he takes, and he's clearly trying to stop from turning into Red Hulk. The leader even calls him and tells him that the pills are filled with gamma radiation because
the best kind of prize is a surprise.
Madam Web-voiced bad guy realizes that his antagonistic monologuing can't convince President Ford to change into Red Hulk yet because the plot doesn't want him to, and does that cringe villainous scream thing. After the debacle, Sam is watching his partner get operated on because he was hurt in the skirmish. You know, through the cliche window thing that isn't real in operating rooms. Even in good movies they do this stupid shit, so it's not exclusive to this one, but it certainly adds to the half-ass flavor of it all. Finally, the real Captain America replacement shows up, Bucky Barnes. If you're in the online world like me, you've probably heard plenty of arguments about why Bucky shouldn't have been Captain America over Sam by complete morons. Their arguments boil down to the fact he was a brainwashed killer before all this, so no one would accept him. Yet here he stands on the verge of being a fucking congressman in this movie. A congressman. Where will the goalpost be moved next? He gives Sam a pep talk and lets him know that because the scriptwriters need you to think he's better than Steve Rogers, he just flat out tells him. He says, "Steve gave people something to believe in, but you give people something to aspire to." This movie can go fuck itself. 2'7" tall white girl walks in looking shorter than ever and talks about how hot Winter Soldier is, and that inspires Sam to keep trying to save Isaiah or some stupid shit. See, Isaiah, or Old Man Morpheus, is going to get the fucking death penalty even though he didn't kill anyone, because that's how childish this movie is. And by God, Sam's got to do something about this goofy turn of events. Next, dumbass villain the leader shows up and kills Sam's friend who is investigating the pills President Ford takes. He's about to call Sam and tell him that the pills are filled with gamma, but leader takes him out before he can. He does this so he can just show up in front of Sam and tell him himself? What the fuck? So he kills the guy to delay it by just a few minutes basically, for no reason. This This movie is such a mess. Holy shit. That's right. After he kills the guy, he pops up in front of Captain Falcon and is like, "Bah, I've been had. The probability something something." Or some dumb bullshit the script can't articulate. And that's how smart this guy is, constantly outwitted by the fucking Falcon. The leader gives himself up to the authorities because whatever. I don't even care anymore. I just want it to end. And Falcon runs off to stop the president now that he realizes the pills are filled with gamma, or whatever. President Ford is about to give a speech in front of the White House about how the Accords have been worked out. But then main villain dude takes a cue from Batman Returns and plays his phone conversation with the president over the speakers. Yes, this movie steals from another much better movie. Again, the recording plays for everyone to hear publicly, and President Jones is enraged that everyone now knows he has a soft spot for crack cocaine or something.
It's 7 o'clock on the dot. I need a crack rock on the spot.
This revelation sends him into a rage, and he finally turns into Red Hulk, which acts and looks suspiciously like regular Hulk, but whatever. The Secret Service, charged with protecting the president, then turn and start firing on him because this movie's functionally retarded. And this, sure as shit, enrages the red dude further, so he starts attacking and killing people. Luckily, Captain Falcon shows up, and thank God he has a suit of armor from Wakanda and the wings of Falcon and the mask of Ant-Man and the tech of Iron Man so he can survive all this. But don't worry, the movie will remind you that he's just a man, minus being geared to the gills more than any superhero in the entire MCU. Even though Steve Rogers had super soldier serum flowing through his veins, in the original Avengers movie they were smart enough not to have him fight the Hulk because it would make no sense. They had teched out people or demigods like Thor fight him because they're the only ones who could handle it. Stark had to have a literal Hulkbuster suit to do it. But that's how powerful Sam is at this point. Power levels, the script needs something exciting to happen, so Red Hulk it is. Let's disregard the constant reminder that he's human regardless of the tech that's superior to everyone's in the past. I swear the inconsistency is mind-numbing. Anyway, they fight it out in shitty CGI fashion like we usually see in a Marvel movie, and Sam wins because obviously, and despite Red Hulk still not giving up, Sam uses the power of words to stop the beast. That's right, the big advertised monster that's been in every trailer for this movie is in it for all of 5 fucking minutes. Amazing, isn't it? He returns back to his Old Man Ford form and is carted off to the Raft prison for his crimes. Old Man Morpheus is freed, and Sam visits Mini Falcon in the hospital and complains about the difficulties he faces trying to replace Steve Rogers, which is a legitimate thing because he's in this movie that's trying to convince us he's the real deal. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, Ross gets to see his daughter Betty again because he's a good boy now, and that's it. That's the fucking movie. To put a giant FU stamp on the fact the audience is 10 steps ahead of the movie at all times, we have to watch Sam Wilson be cryptically told about the multiverse in the post-credit scene. What a revelation, huh? When I first started writing this review, I really disliked the movie, but now that I watched it 3 times for the plot breakdown, I absolutely despise it. It's everything wrong with Hollywood and in particular the MCU right now. Somehow bloated despite a short runtime. Aimless, exists for completionist's sake and not for anything meaningful. Has nothing to say at all. Is pure consumer product made for the lowest common denominator and contributes absolutely nothing to cinema. This is the kind of movie Scorsese was talking about when he said Marvel movies were theme park rides. Except this one is on rusty rails and its brakes don't work. But it's a Disney theme park, so you already signed a waiver and your family will lose the lawsuit. Deadpool and Wolverine pulled off exactly what it needed to. It's a damn good reason to go to the theater, for which I'm certain Regal and AMC are grateful to their Disney overlords. It's the start of Marvel's apology tour for their toilet water movies the last few years, deciding to play it as safe as possible and feeding us the McDonald's of cinema, with main ingredients consisting of unapologetic nostalgia and fan service. But it's also a surprisingly heartfelt farewell to Marvel's Fox universe, and Disney thankfully didn't burden this movie with the weight of saving the MCU. They're leaving that to their Robert Downey Jr. panic casting. I don't like describing a movie as fun, but that's really what this one is. It's fun. Not that MCU movies are the height of cinema, but Deadpool and Wolverine is a happy meal. There's no nutritional value and there might be some gut rot, but you're not supposed to eat that shit all the time. It's a little treat. Now, if you've seen a Deadpool movie, this one's like DMX on a roller coaster. You're getting exactly what you expect.
Whoa! 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 It ain't nothing.
Ryan Reynolds has Deadpool down to a formula, probably why Kevin Feige used this movie to momentarily stop the bleeding of the dying Marvel Cinematic Universe. A third Deadpool movie is the safest of bets, an absolute home run in the right hands and something that should be impossible to mess up. And with Wolverine added, this was the predictable, guaranteed box office hit they desperately needed. Just how nervous fans were about Marvel screwing this up is indicative of how far the MCU's fallen, but hey, Disney deserves credit for not fucking up the unfuck-upable, so good job. We're talking about a film that in a bizarre way was going to be above normal criticism, and it has to be if you want to enjoy it. If you think about the plot for 2 seconds, it completely crumbles under its own stupidity, and it was always going to. It definitely feels like Ryan Reynolds and the writing team used the meta-ness of the Deadpool character to justify a lot of lazy-ass writing, but the good stuff is damn good. Does it feel like there's any substance? No. Did I expect it? Also no. Fair or not, Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be judged on if it did what the broader audience expects, which is make people laugh, let Hugh Jackman be Wolverine, and just general Deadpool buffoonery, bullshit, and shenanigans. And yep, all boxes checked. The plot of Deadpool and Wolverine is, well, kind of pointless and makes no fucking sense because of the contradictions it creates, but we'll get to that. The story, little as there is, exists to get Deadpool and Wolverine in a buddy action comedy scenario, and with a fourth wall breaking character, you have a built-in excuse to be as lazy as you want. The movie makes sure to do exactly that, for better or worse sometimes. We start with a flash forward on Earth 616. Deadpool's being interviewed by Happy Hogan for a spot on the Avengers, and he gets told promptly to eat shit. According to Happy, the Avengers is for selfless heroes, not for people trying to win back a stripper. We then go back in time to Deadpool's birthday party, and Mr. Wilson's taken away by the TVA. You know, that obnoxious reminder of sloppy MCU world building? They take him to meet Mr. Paradox, who offers him a spot in the sacred timeline, or rather Earth 616, where we just were. He'll want to take Paradox up on the offer too, since apparently his universe is dying. See, when Wolverine died back in 2017's Logan, the universe lost its anchor being. Or in real world terms, without a lead character to anchor the story, the writing is doomed to go to shit and audiences stop caring. A universe decays over several thousand years when the anchor person dies, but Paradox has a little MacGuffin to end universes faster. Because the movie needs to put the characters in some sort of time crunch jeopardy, contrived or not, damn it. Deadpool, not wanting his world to die, steals Paradox's little iPad and jumps universes looking for a variant of Wolverine to replace his dead one and thus stop his world from destruction. Does all that make sense? Absolutely fucking not. I'll break down the Earth Killer-sized plot holes, but a note. There's a difference between this and other poorly written Marvel schlock as of late. At the very least, I am entertained. An excuse to see live-action versions of classic comic Wolverines begins while the cameo machine simultaneously starts. And dipshit Deadpool doesn't just snag any Wolverine. He apparently kidnaps the worst Wolverine in the multiverse, who was convinced by Deadpool to help him under the premise that the TVA could go back in time and fix his fuck-ups. Instead, Paradox prunes Deadpool and Wolverine to the void, where they start their buddy comedy adventure through various brown CGI spots, running into excuses for fan service and cameos galore. The two duke it out in a profanity-laced fight to kick things off, and it's made for sheer visual glory. Two beings who can't die trying to kill each other doesn't make for a fight with stakes, but it's pretty fucking fun to watch. They make it to the edge of the void where they meet more cameos along with another villain, Cassandra Nova, a variant sister of Charles Xavier. Deadpool gets Johnny Storm killed by exposing him as a Cassandra shit-talker before they eventually escape and meet Nicepool, the other half of Ryan Reynolds' shtick. They gather all the cameos to battle Cassandra and escape the void, and they do just that in over-the-top CGI gore and shenanigans. Cassandra's betrayed by Pyro on behalf of Paradox because the movie needs to give her motivation for the finale, and Wolverine saves her, sparking a momentary truce allowing them to escape. Cassandra's decided to use the Time Ripper MacGuffin to not just destroy Deadpool's world, but everything in the multiverse, because villain reasons. Thankfully, Deadpool and Wolverine join forces in a video game QuickTime sequence to stop her, and Wolverine's now called the best Wolverine because the MCU really needs you to care about this one pronto so we can get to the Avengers movies. My movie summary's tongue-in-cheek because as sloppy as the script is, this movie has a lot in common with Spider-Man No Way Home, which I still hold in high regard even though it's a heavily flawed nostalgia-laden film. That's what Deadpool and Wolverine is too, and neither movie has plot holes you could headcanon your way out of. The issues are there, but having characters with a bit of heart goes a really long way in enjoying a story. Objectively, the script for this movie is a complete fucking mess, and you can feel how rushed Marvel was to get this out. It has 5 writers, including Reynolds himself, and the movie was pushed into production, then abruptly abruptly shut down due to writer strikes. With Ant-Man 3 and the Marvels bombing, Disney needed a hit, so a lot was riding on this to be successful. For what they managed to produce in the time frame they had, they did a great job. This wasn't a movie written by activists with no IP knowledge, it was made from fans. I mean, seeing Hugh Jackman's reaction to the final fight is proof this man is one of us. There's also shoddy visual work too. From the opening sequence of a bloody Deadpool against a Snow White backdrop that looks incredible, to the boring bland brown of the Void. This movie definitely could have used another year of production. It's the kind of movie where they'll Star Wars it to death in the future. With physical media dying, in the near future they'll probably give unfinished movies like Deadpool and Wolverine a new save file, with upgraded CGI and buffs like a fucking video game. They already do it with Star Wars. Watch a physical VHS copy of the special edition from the 90s, and then whatever version they have on Disney Plus now. They're not the same movie. They even do that with movies in theaters. The audio problems from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse comes to mind, and man, this movie calls for a software update. I also ask the question, why does every movie produced by Disney have that look to it? No matter the director, there's a sheen to their movies with a distinct lack of grit. It really does set this one apart visually from its predecessors. An interesting takeaway from Deadpool and Wolverine is that Marvel's very aware of its own problems. Disney and even Kevin Feige himself have deflected criticism of Phase 4 and 5, digging their heels in the ground about review bombing just this past weekend. They say that while simultaneously taking in all of the criticism they've been receiving the past few years and doing everything in their power to correct it. Deadpool's fourth wall breaks are used to address the MCU's issues head on. Deadpool congratulating Wolverine on joining the MCU, which he admits is at a low point right now, is the first sign Feige listens to the fans. Does he say that he cares what you have to say? Absolutely fucking not. And the movie's plot point about the importance of anchor characters to an entire universe is strikingly similar to a video I made 2 years ago about the importance of having what I called an anchor character for the MCU, like Iron Man was, or wait for it, Hugh Jackman was, for the Fox universe. Yes, I'd say the anchor being plot is more a meta-commentary for the MCU dying without a central figure like Robert Downey Jr. It's why I mentioned in that same video they'd need to be focused on either Wolverine or Doctor Doom, who they'd get to return, by the way. I was right. Feige can say whatever he wants, but it's like someone at Marvel is watching YouTubers and taking notes. And maybe too much at face value. I thought they'd cast someone new as Doom and Wolverine, but they literally got Hugh Jackman back and Downey Jr. for a heel turn. Amazing. That's Marvel's answer to their problems. They're going back to the well, but at least it's better than the shit they've been pumping out, so judging by the box office numbers, it's a safe decision on Marvel's part while they figure out what to do for the rebooted MCU of Phase 7 and beyond. Deadpool and Wolverine's meta jokes show the studio can be honest about its mistakes, even though no one would say it outside a joke that has plausible deniability, but we'll take what we can, I guess. As mentioned before, this movie is going to be viewed outside normal criticism for the vast majority of people seeing it. Who cares if something makes sense in a movie that breaks the fourth wall, am I right? But it's similar to an argument made for Godzilla x Kong, or any other random meta movie like Barbie even. Especially with MCU apathy in mind, mileage will vary on how much even fans care about the story problems. But let's take a look at some just for shits and giggles. Number 1, it's previously been established in the MCU that if a variant winds up in a universe outside their own, their displacement would lead to an incursion and the destruction of the universe they're inhabiting. But the entire reason Deadpool and Wolverine wind up together is because Deadpool's trying to save his universe by permanently replacing Logan with a variant. Yet, in Multiverse of Madness, Stephen Strange was captured by an alternate Avengers squad who wanted him the fuck out of there because his presence would cause the destruction of their universe. Even though their world Strange was, wait for it, dead. There's some validation for the nothing in the multiverse matters jokes. Two movies inhabiting the same universe contradict each other regarding the overarching storyline. New motto is welcome to the MCU. Who cares? Number 2, a universe starts to decay when its anchor being dies. How did it exist before the anchor being existed? Were there previous anchor beings? Will there never be another one? So the universe's most likely billion-year history rests solely on the 80-year at best lifespan of one human being. I know it doesn't make sense and it doesn't need to, but it's still there no matter how you feel about the movie. And there are a lot of examples in the movie like this, where I don't even think Mahler would want to go through them all. But again, I understand that's the point. Marvel's continuity and overall story has always been played a little loose, but it seems like we're at the point of fuck the story, hit the emergency fan service button. And goddamn does this thing commit to fan service, where the movie isn't so much a movie but more a celebrity guessing game of who could they afford with a Disney level budget. That's where this kind of thing gets you. It is cool to see a lot of the fan service key jangling wish fulfillment moments that have eluded fans all these years. If there was some substance to the first 3 MCU phases, then Deadpool and Wolverine is the start of the apology tour for the last few years years of shit movies, even if it looks goofy. When Channing Tatum walks out as comic accurate Gambit, I was happy to finally see it, and also glad we never got a solo movie. More cameos from Fox's past creep in, like Jennifer Garner's Elektra, but no Ben Affleck. Was it budget constraints, or maybe Affleck's done with superheroes as he deals with the burden of existing? This poor fucking guy. The big return though is Wesley Snipes as Blade. Still looking badass at 60, they let him actually say something along the lines of, "There's only ever gonna be one Blade." A line Marvel allowed that I'm sure Mahershala Ali is pleased with. Knowing Snipes' history, it's not crazy to think he negotiated that line into his contract. And Blade gets the best deal out of all the cameos. They wouldn't dare make him look uncool. He even gets to throw the ice skating uphill line for some seal claps. Another person sneaking in from the Fox universe was Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. His brutal murder in the movie serves as a lesson. They can afford Chris Evans for this, and he's 100% going to be back as Captain America in Secret Wars. And yeah, all these cameos are unabashed key jangling, but they're at least here because the film, flaws and all, was made by people who love the property. That's proven by the end credits, where Good Riddance plays over a montage of behind-the-scenes footage. That gets the Hallmark commercial single-serving emotional resonance, but it's simultaneously earnest all the same. And that leads me to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, who's the big gimmicky selling point of this movie. These stunt casting things are gimmicky since the story has to work through contrivances to bring the character back, but I'm open to anything as long as it's executed well. So does the movie give a good enough reason to bring Hugh back? Yes and no. It pulls the same thing the Loki show did. The character of Loki died during the events of Infinity War, but the writers really need you to be emotionally invested in this time variant version of him the exact same way. So the variant Wolverine, much like the variant Loki, is the exact same character as the previous one up to a point. It's a quick way to essentially bring someone back from the dead without actually doing it. The story excuse to bring him back barely matters. What actually does is the psychology behind it, at least to Marvel. General audiences won't care too much if this is the same Wolverine, as long as it's the recognizable face of Hugh Jackman playing him. For what it's worth, I found the desecration of Logan's corpse at the beginning of the movie a wild thing to write. I found that pretty funny, but also over the top. James Mangold's pulling an Arthur right now, I'm sure. Also, if Deadpool could go back to any point in his timeline, why not just go back to a point where Wolverine's alive? Just whatever. Basically, we just have to accept that Wolverine's back, and yay, it's Hugh Jackman. And damn, he brings the intensity in a few scenes that carry all the emotional weight in the movie, and serve as a reminder of how great of an actor he is. Between Logan and Deadpool and Wolverine, I think he's made up for the decades of movies where he didn't get to say my favorite word, fuck, using it so liberally it even made me question if it was excessive. By the time he dons the mask, the fan wish fulfillment is in full effect. On an IMAX screen, watching Hugh Jackman in full comic Wolverine attire slash through his enemies is 25 years in the making, and Marvel gave us what we wanted all those years. Unfortunately, it's in a completely meaningless sequence where all the enemies come right back to life, but for a quarter pounder with cheese, it fulfilled my needs, empty as those calories are. As for Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, I have to be objective. He understands the character and plays him well. I just don't find Reynolds particularly entertaining. I think his shtick is best served in small doses because he's a one-trick pony and things get old really fast. Jackman beating the shit out of him and verbally tearing him to shreds throughout the movie is satisfying on a meta level. Regardless of how I feel about him, audiences resonate with him. I've said before that Reynolds as Deadpool makes the superhero movie for people who don't like superhero movies, and I stand by that. So if you've enjoyed that Deadpool series up to this point, you'll certainly love Reynolds in the role again. Deadpool and Wolverine was able to succeed because it wasn't burdened with the weight of saving the MCU storyline, but its success at the box office certainly showed Marvel a path forward to save the next phase. Nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia. Robert Downey Jr. coming back is no mistake, and it'll play into audience psychology again. Just like seeing Hugh Jackman, it doesn't matter if Downey's playing a variant or different character. Seeing him back in the MCU is the least bold strategy possible, but for Deadpool 3 to be R-rated and open to 200 million, it looks like it'll be good enough to get fans back in the seats for at least 2 more Avengers movies. GG's.
Make me happy.